Alright, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to my city project here that I've been working on in my survival world for the past couple years. And in the time that I've worked on this, I have come across a few mistakes that I have made, which hopefully in this video I can help you guys avoid. So just a little bit of background here for you guys that are new. This is a city project that I've been working on in my Let's Play, which all of these projects you can see in a different episode. The cool thing about this city is that every single building has a purpose, and it is filled with a farm of some sort, and that's what I try to do from the beginning. So, for example, in this building we have the wool farm. You can kind of see some redstone in there, and that's to automatically harvest wool. In this skyscraper right here, we have a mob grinder, which, if you've ever built one before, it just pretty much harvests the mob drops, and you can see the mess of chests down there that are full with mob drops. You can even see some zombies and skeletons falling to their death from high up in the building. And over here we have the sugarcane farm, arguably one of the most important farms in my city, because that's what I use to trade paper for villagers and make rockets with. So yeah, definitely an important farm here. And the last two buildings are this one right here, which is actually an automatic carrot farm. If we go through this door right here, we have some chests that are pretty much full of carrots, and that is done by a farmer villager that harvests the carrots up above in the second floor. And I might have to make another chest here soon. This is actually filling up pretty quick. And to conclude the little tour that I just gave, this is the factory building that I made a while back, which contains the automatic smelter, which I actually did that recently. So, yep, pretty much the entire city has a use, except for that building, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. We also have what I call the Villager Hotel, which contains all of my villagers. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm going to start now with the first problem that I came across, which is that this city is built on one level. You can pretty much see it looks like a super flat world if you just stand right here. When I looked for a spot to build my city, I wanted to choose a very flat location, but that ended up making a very boring landscape. If I were to redo this entire city, I'd probably make a few more level changes just to make the roads a little bit more interesting instead of just a flat plain. It's a very minor detail, and it would probably make the city look a lot better if there were slight changes in the ground levels, but I think it's kind of too late to do that. Most of the city, or at least the roads, are already built up to an extent, so I have to go through a lot of work just to level, or I guess unlevel, the ground in some spots. But for all those that are building their own cities, make sure to do that. I don't know how many people are going to be building cities in their survival worlds or creative worlds, but it is a detail that I do recommend you at least attempt. The next mistake I made kind of depends on your taste. So recently I've been watching a few videos on YouTube that talks about autocentric cities, and basically what that is are cities that are only accessible if you have a car. So when I built this city, I was pretty young, and when I thought of a city, I always thought of gridlock patterns and roads that pretty much are only accessible by car, and I didn't really take into account that the best parts of cities are usually ones that are walkable. So I tried over time to redo my city here by introducing a plaza area, and that building is supposed to be a building with like shop fronts and stuff on it, and restaurants and stores, but that kind of changes the purpose of the city. I want every single building to have, a purpose. So I'm going to be changing that up a little bit, and I'm probably going to put a melon and pumpkin farm in there soon. But from the outside, I do want it to look like a walkable city. So make sure when you're building street layouts to include lots of ways for people that are walking to access different spots of the city. For example, crosswalks, or even parks and stuff like that as well. It does just make it a better living environment for the imaginary people that would be living in this city. The next mistake I made relates to the skyscrapers here. So as you can see, we have 3 different skyscrapers, and they're all relatively the same, I guess, scale. And something I didn't think about is that scale is actually really important when you're building buildings. A couple weeks ago, I was designing a cathedral idea, because that's one project I would like to work on, is a cathedral in the city, which you guys might have to look out for. That might be an episode that might come out in the future. But what happened was I came up with a design that was too big. It was not the right scale. I had to scale it down because if I were actually to build it here in the city, it would look too big and out of place. So I think that's something that not many people think about when they're building in Minecraft. It's very, I don't know, is it really complex? I think it is. So what I try to do is make it like human sized, so these skyscrapers are pretty realistic to what, you know, a person would see in real life. So I think what happened was I was building the cathedral for somebody that was a lot bigger than the, I guess, Minecraft person here. So yeah, just keep that into account when building a city. Try to stick to a scale where all your buildings are pretty much built for the same size person. I probably sounded weird, but you guys get what I mean. Alright, moving on now to this building right here. This was a mistake. Nah, I'm just kidding. Something I learned just as a builder is that you guys need to test your builds out in a creative world before you build them in survival. It saves so much time, and it's just one of those things where it just helps in the long run. This building right here was what I call a freestyle build. I just went and I built it, and I took a step back and looked at it and I was like, alright, it's okay. Which in my opinion is not good. I always want to feel 100% happy when my builds are done, especially with a project as long term as this one right here. I don't think I'm going to be tearing this building down, but I might have to make some renovations soon because it is kind of outdated. This is something I would build a couple of years ago that I'd be happy with, but not now. I just think I can do better, you know? So that's one thing I think you guys should all try out if you are already, which is testing your builds in a creative world before you build them in survival. Alright, so back to another city related tip. So if you guys are building a city, you might come across the grid shape pattern that always occurs. Every time you build a city, there's always a grid pattern. And what I try to do to break that up is if you fly over here, I did make a diagonal street because I did this because mostly streets in real life, or at least in cities, don't always have a perfect gridlock pattern. And that's what I realized is that I kind of want to have some more interesting buildings, you know? You see in real life, if you just, for example, in New York City, there's like the Flatiron Building, which only occurs because of streets that intersect at a diagonal. So what I did is I made this street, and all that is to make the overall shape of the city more interesting for people to look at instead of, you know, just square buildings every single time. And yeah, those are some of the mistakes I have made over time while building this project. Hopefully you guys got something to take away from this video, and maybe if you're building a city, you guys can send me some pictures of those on Twitter of how those are coming along. I'd really like to see those. But yeah, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.